Hi, everybody. Today we're going to continue with Designing for Music series. We have an incredible designer as our guest today, Jeri Heiden. Jeri Heiden, I put her in the same master class of the famous designers with names like Stefan Sagmeister, John Berg, Paula Scher, Vaughn Oliver, Peter Seville. Jeri is a Grammy and award-winning art director and designer with over 40 years experience in the music industry and is the creative director of SMOG Design in Los Angeles. Her work can be seen in over 450 album campaigns, and she has designed for numerous Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees, including Madonna, Eagles, Fleetwood Mac, Sheryl Crow, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Tina Turner, and Cher. I want to add that Jeri was profiled in our Designing for Music and Rock Art books in 1992, which profiled some of the best music designers of that time worldwide with some of their work. Later, some of her special CD packaging was in 150-piece special CD packaging show at the One Club in 1995 in New York, and she was also exhibited from that exhibition into the Cooper Hewitt Museum Mixed Messages Show in 1995, which MTV and VH1 and Smithsonian Magazine promoted. I want to also say that Judith and I are Grammy and National Design Award nominated. Our designs are in MoMA, AIGA, Lou Reed NYPL, and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Archival Collection. And our co-host, Patrick Bamburak, is our producer. Let's start. And hi, Jeri. How are you?
I'm great. How are you guys doing?
We're excited to hear from you.
Great.
So let's start with your packaging. We'll start with number one, Aha, Hunting High and Low, 1985, which was Grammy nominated. So tell us about that, Jer.
That was one of my first, kind of big deal packages. I had been at Warner Brothers for a couple of years, and I was starting to get opportunities to do better projects, I guess. I proved myself. And we had a new creative director at that time, Jeff Aroff, and he trusted me to work on this. And it was a super fun one because I pretty much made it by hand. It was a hand collaged cover, hand collaged back cover. Everything was handwritten or typewritten and pasted up, and it was just super fun. It was one of my first forays into that type of design, which I would definitely follow up and do more of that later.
The second one is Madonna's True Blue in 1986.
Well, Madonna, what do what can you say? It was the second project that I worked with Madonna on. I'd started with Like a Virgin, and then went on to True Blue. And True Blue was just extraordinary because it was the Herb Ritts photo session with so many beautiful images. And in this case, it was really, really unusual because it was a black and white photo originally. Head and shoulders are actually almost to her waist. We had it hand tinted. We then rephotographed it. We ended up using a color stat as our final art. She approved basically the art from a comp, and it had no type on the cover, and it had my handwriting on the back cover. So again, the handwriting would come into play.
The third piece, Brian Wilson, one of my favorites, 1988. I was familiar with not only the album, but the special CD package, which was actually the first one I got in the mail that was put into our special CD show. So tell us about that packaging with Brian.
There's a little story behind this one, which is at some point somebody thought he was unphotographable. He was hard to take a picture of because he had an awkwardness to him. But we ended up finding this great photo, or Cam Hanatsu shot him, and we realized that half of his face looked just right. So again, we ended up collaging this. This has more handwriting. And the special CD package was you're right, it was one of the first that I ever did. And it was promotional only. We weren't selling them at the time, but it was a really cool opportunity to get into special packaging for CDs, which we hadn't done that yet. So it was a book style package with a linen cover and stamping, and it was really, really pretty.
That was Grammy nominated, that Brian Wilson, right?
It was. It was.
So the next one, here we go, Madonna.
Madonna yet again.
1989. Judith, you want to tell us a little story you were telling me?
You had mentioned on a previous interview you did with someone that Madonna had wanted a patchouli smell to the when could you include that little story, because I found it fascinating.
Absolutely. Madonna's Like a Prayer. Again, it was photographed by Herb Ritz. Madonna and Herb were very close at that time, and he was shooting her a lot. She didn't want to be on the cover, her face, which was scandalous for marketers at the record company. The logo was done by Margot Chase, who, in her own right was a very significant designer in packaging. But at that time she was just still doing like logo types. So we had the opportunity to hire her for that. And Madonna wanted this to smell like a church. She wanted that like holy incense kind of vibe. And we got the printer to fashion a way to get this scent. It was essentially patchouli oil that they put into the glue in the packaging. So it was mixed in with the glue. They tried a bunch of different things, like putting it in the ink or whatever, and it didn't stay. And they ended up putting it in the glue. And if you open one of these LPs to this day, you can still smell that patchouli oil.
So the next package is Elvis Costello, Spike, the Beloved Entertainer, 1989.
This one was so much fun. It was Elvis Costello's first album on Warner Brothers. He had left, I think he was with Columbia or CBS or something for many years, and he had just signed to Warner Brothers, and he and the photographer Brian Griffin had this idea that he would be like a hunting trophy. He'd be a mounted head on the wall of an old, pub or something like that. So he actually got in all the makeup, and this was like live. He stuck his head through the satin. It wasn't a composite, really. I think we composited the background. That was it. And it was originally called Spike, and John, my husband, did the logo for this. And then he decided he wanted to change the title to The Beloved Entertainer, and I suggested that we keep both of them, that he would be Spike, the Beloved Entertainer. And so we added the little nameplate at the bottom. Also, Elvis Costello and I are probably related, because my maiden name is McManus, and when we met each other in England for the first time, we just kind of did a double take, like we've got to be cousins or something like that. And he said he felt the same way. He thought it was pretty funny.
Nice. The next package, Fleetwood Mac, Behind the Mask, 1990, and that was Grammy nominated again. A box set. Tell us about the box set.
Yeah, this was one of those weird, like 90s things where it was a box set. We put in, we had a litho and a couple of other things, but the CD was just sitting inside of a box, which I still think is kind of funny, but we did it at the time. And the band was not getting along, which is not atypical of Fleetwood Mac, but they really weren't jiving at that point. And they didn't want to be photographed, and they didn't want to be on the cover. So the big idea here was that we cast other people to play them. And it was Mick's idea that they would be sort of a spiritual proxy band. So each of these actors were cast to represent one of the band members.
The photograph is just absolutely stunning. It's almost like a masterpiece painting.
This photographer really had that quality. He was somewhat popular in the 90s. I know he did a few other album covers, but he really is more of a fine art photographer.
The next one is Madonna, Immaculate, one of my favorites, Immaculate Collection, 1990. Why? I took the CD out of the box and put it into our special packaging show, which I loved.
Yeah, the Immaculate Collection was the was the name of just the LP CD cassette release, and the Royal Box was the box set. It had the VHS tape because her videos were so amazing at that time. It was like a greatest hits video collection, plus the CD, plus a poster, plus postcards, and all kinds of other things. And that was the Royal Box. And this is another one where I worked with my husband, John, and he designed the logo.
Wow, it's a beautiful collection.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful collection there. Next one is Katie Lang, Ingenue, 1992. I love this because I remember getting the corrugated CD special package, and that went into our show also. And tell us about that. It's a beautiful package, by the way, that one.
Well, Katie is one of my favorite artists ever. I've been working with her for almost 40 years, and we're good friends. And this one was her breakthrough album, and she just wanted something. It was like kind of transitioning away from country in a sense, and it was more pop. And she had a huge hit with it, with Constant Craving. And she just wanted some very unusual photography, and we ended up finding that in Glenn Ehrler, and it was just this really moody, beautiful, just sort of obscure photography approach, and it really suited the record. It was really great. She was very happy.
Very nice package.
And the CD itself is another masterpiece, and it's just, I think you started this organic look in graphics, because the corrugated feel, the paper and the typography, to me, is just stunning.
I have to call out that the artist who did the lettering for us was Doyle Young, who was very famous. And at that time, this was sort of, we were in that weird place where we were on computers, but
in between,
it kind of, you're doing the work on computers, but you're still sort of sometimes reaching for, photo lettering, or, photo typeset lettering, or other things. You just didn't have the fonts, like the selection was not like what it is now. It was very, not great anyway, in its infancy. And we wanted a unicase font, something that would, because she likes to, use lowercase letters for her name, but I wanted something that didn't have a lot of ups and downs. I wanted it to feel very unicase. So Doyle made this for us based on lithos.
The next package, the Decemberists, What a Terrible World, What a Beautiful World, 2015, Grammy nominated. This is a beautiful package, Jeri. Tell us about that. It's very intricate. Box set.
Well, yeah. I mean, the Decemberists are just such an incredible band, and a huge part of their, imaging has to do with Carson Ellis, who is Colin Meloy's wife. So, the lead singer of the band is married to the illustrator, and we are incredibly fortunate to be able to use her work on all of these things, because it's just it just flows. It's just amazing. And this particular one was super fun because it had kind of a secret society bent. Had all these weird badges and this banner that looked like it would be in a Masonic temple or something like that. And the band was photographed in uniforms, like old, vintage uniforms. It's just super, super fun. They just have a great imagination as a band, and with Carson's work, it's just so much fun. It started out as like a quilt. Her original cover art is like a quilt, and she ended up making a quilt afterward.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. Incredible.
Next one is Pink, Beautiful Trauma, 2017.
I just wanted to talk about Pink because she's also another favorite of mine, and I've been working with her since 2000, or 2003 or something like that. So quite a long time, and she's just so much fun to work with. And this was another one where my handwriting was featured on the cover and featured throughout the touring and all of that. So another opportunity for me to get out the the pens and the brushes.
And I love that. I mean, I don't know
Artwork.
if you chose that red interior of what she's wearing, but
No,
that
it was super. This was so random because it was literally they jumped out of a van. They were doing a video shoot. This was taken during the video shoot, and just jumped out of the van, and the wind blew. The photographer, shot this picture. It was super random, like literally just run and gun photo, and
beautiful.
it just was so great.
And now we'll come into again of the Decemberists. I'll Be Your Girl,
Yeah.
2018, Grammy nominated. Here we
Yeah,
go up the
yeah.
ladder. Box set.
This one was incredible because it's so weird. It's like it's an album released on 8 7-inch singles.
Right.
So, it's like 16 tracks. And it is an accordion book. You open it up and it has all these pop-ups.
I love it.
Like just incredible engineering, paper engineering and handwork. And again, we had a couple of different things happening here. We had this idea of this pop-up book and the multicolored 7-inch singles. And then we had Carson Ellis's crazy illustration. And my partner, Glenn Nakasako, who was part of SMOG at the time, just went through and found all the little parts and cut them out and, found all the things that could turn into pop-ups, which was a tremendous amount of work, but it was really worth it. It also had some secret things. It had a little secret Illimat card stuck in it, which was one of the games, a game that Colin Meloy and the band had come up with.
Here it is. Jeri sent it to me. Here we go.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, and then open it up and it pushes the 7-inch sleeves up. Like they are revealed as you open the book. It's just a great concept.
We're up to date here talking about the Grammy winner this year. And congratulations.
Thank you.
For the Bird Song Project 2022 box set. And to me, before my eyes, I couldn't believe it. It's gorgeous, beyond words.
What's really awesome about this one is that it's actually quite simple. It's not you Spencer, as you guys have both done a lot of Grammy judging or whatever, special packaging judging. You've seen everything. You've seen every kind of crazy thing that can be done, right?
Yeah.
And so have I, big just boxes full of everything.
Right.
But this one is simple. And the idea was just that it looked like a birdhouse, that we just have a bird hole. And we had the cover wrapped in a wood textured paper, which I think is really lovely. And we couldn't spend a fortune on this. We couldn't spend crazy amounts of money because the whole point was for it to raise money for the birds, because it was it's a project that benefits the Audubon Society. So everyone donated their music and their poetry readings. There's all these famous actors who read poems on this, and all the music was donated, all the art was donated. The illustrators. So it was a labor of love. And what I'm just so pleased about is that was recognized. People saw the beauty in that. It didn't have to have crazy bells and whistles. It just demanded kind of respect. It was it's just beautiful.
And now I'm going to go into something interesting. I'm going to go into some of this special CD packaging, which is really our forte. And let's talk about Sheila E., the sex symbol package.
Yeah, that was really fun. It was a little can, to look like a drum, I guess. And then inside it actually had a miniature symbol. A lot of times during this period in the 90s when we were doing special CD packaging, we'd honestly just come up with an idea, like a thing, there's this box, or we could do this crate, or we could do this, thing with holographic foil, or, you'd find a thing and then you'd try to figure out who you could use it for.
Okay, we have a couple others. Paul Simon, Rhythm of the Saints, and that was a little box with a tie on it. I remember rainbow type of design.
We used we used an African cloth, an African
Yeah.
woven cloth, and then hand tied, or that was printed, that the CD went into, and then hand tied each of them with raffia, with a beautiful kind of hemp string, and African beads and feathers.
Quincy Jones, Back on the Block.
That one was a fun one. That was just another one of these, like the Brian Wilson, like this,
Yeah.
digi book, basically.
Right.
That had a lovely linen cover and foil stamping and, booklet in it. And that one, that project was also designed by Margot Chase.
Also, Don Henley, End of the Innocence.
That was another digi book. These were all promos too. I think I've
Yeah.
mentioned that. These weren't for sale yet. And there wasn't really a market for it, or I don't know, maybe we just didn't want to make that many of them, but they were a way to get the project noticed.
But I want to ask you how you feel about vinyl now. Vinyl's coming back.
It's so exciting. I love it. Everything that I'm working on right now is vinyl. It's
Yeah.
I'm delighted. It's come full circle, and vinyl is outselling, any other format. And we're just getting to have a lot of fun. And now finally production has caught up with the demand for vinyl. So, because there was a big gap there for a while where, that people wanted to make vinyl, but you had these super long lead times because there weren't enough production facilities to accommodate. I think now everybody knows that, everybody wants the vinyl. So more and more plants are opening, and there's more capacity, and we can make this stuff in a reasonable amount of time.
Okay, Jeri, thanks for being on,
Thanks.
and the very best.
Thank you,
Yeah.
guys. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
This was fun. Thank you so much for all the information. It was great.
Yeah.
Nice to have met
No
you.
problem.